What up, what up, what up? We are back with another episode of The Art of Hustle. Today we have Brighton, the breathwork longevity recovery specialist of Central Oregon. Brian, welcome, man.
Thank you, man. Good to be on the podcast.
Yeah, so you said it's your first ever sit down
podcast.
Yeah,
I've only done them on Zoom, so it's definitely better in the flesh, I always say.
Yeah, I did shower today, so there is that.
And you got that little extra coffee in you.
Yeah, for real, I'm good to go. All right, man. Talk to us. How you landed in Brighton, Oregon? How'd you get to this place where you're at in life? Take us back to a little bit the beginning of your story.
Yeah. So I grew up in Northern California, a little town called Mount Shasta. Have you heard of it?
Yep.
Yeah. So beautiful place. Most people don't know about it. If they do, they think it's some spiritual epicenter, and it's true. It is. The stories are true. Mount Shasta is the root chakra of the earth, and it's a very spiritual place. And I got the pleasure of growing up there. I call that mountain like my other mom, basically. And I grew up doing lots of sports. My dad was a professional rock climber, and I just kind of got immersed into outdoor recreation from a very young age. Developed a really strong relationship with nature when I was growing up. And I think that really gave me a sense of spirituality, not like, the new age spirituality that people talk about from the head up, but a felt sense of connection. That's really what spirituality is to me. And growing up, I did a lot of sports: soccer, football, basketball, downhill skiing, skate skiing, hockey, mountain biking, climbing, just moving my body all the time. And invariably I ended up with some injuries, broke a lot of bones, dislocated a lot of joints, and had all these issues in my body growing up that I just had to kind of figure out. And I had to sit out. I was the star of the show most of the time, at least. And when I had to sit out, man, that was hard for me. You probably had this experience too, where it's your life, it's your identity, and having to sit out and really like face like, okay, who am I without this sport, without this identity, without this reputation? That also really forced me to have to figure out who I was on a deeper level. And all that stuff definitely paved the way for me getting into the healing work that I do now, just having to do the internal inquiry of who am I and what's the real point of doing anything.
That's good. I love the nature background. I love the identity background. I love the personal challenge of understanding who you are and the impact you want to make to this world. Going back to kind of the high performing lifestyle, I've grown up in Mount Shasta, the injuries, the identity crisis, quote unquote. What was that work that you did in those moments to really discover yourself, to find that stabilization?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think we all, just as human beings, we have to confront the question that gets put on us of, am I good enough, and how do I know it? Whether it's sports, whether it's performance in school, whether it's a relationship with our parents or our family, we all have an intrinsic desire to want to be somebody. And if that's not tethered to this feeling that we are whole, that we are enough as we are, then it often turns into this sort of performative journey of like trying to externalize our sense of ourselves. And so for me, the actual change that I found through the struggles of being injured and having to sit out was I had to develop that sense of wholeness in myself without the sport, without being the star of the show, without impressing my dad. And that was really hard work. It's shadow work. You have to confront those stories that are running the show of, oh yeah, I can lean on these external roles, reputations to develop a sense of wholeness and a sense of confidence. And when that gets taken away, we have to do that work of really building that within. I think everybody, no matter who you are, I've worked with CEOs of huge companies. I've worked with your average Joe. I've worked with athletes. It doesn't matter who you are. We all have to face that at some point in life, whether it's here, whether it's now, whether it takes a crisis, whether it's at the end of our lives. I think we all have to face that internal relationship with ourselves.
That's good. What was that work like? How did you discover that work that needed to be done? Was that from a mentor? Was that from exploration? Like, how did you find that channel? Like, oh, this is the work that I need to do.
Yeah. So, I was pretty lucky growing up. My dad is a part of an global organization called the Mankind Project. And that is a global community of men, and they do retreats, wilderness retreats, personal development workshops all over the world. So for me, growing up at the age of 13, I got the pleasure of going through a formal rites of passage wilderness retreat, 4 days out in the wilderness with about 80 men. And I went through this initiatory process of martial arts, personal development, connection, singing, chanting, like all this incredible stuff that was this formal, traditional initiation into manhood. And this is something that indigenous cultures all over the world have done for millennia. It's something that has been lost in our modern culture.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things that, as part of my journey and my purpose, I want to be bringing into our communities with our children. Because for me, that moment, that experience gave me a reference point. It gave me a framework for how to really discern what truth feels like, what self feels like, and what purpose feels like, and how to really direct myself intentionally in the world and actually know where I'm going. That's a big thing that we deal with in today's day and age. So many of the men in our community, they don't really know how to direct themselves purposefully outside of just a pursuit of these more hollow things like, attention, money, success at a surface level. It's like, what's the real reason why you're doing what you're doing?
Yeah. So you said I was 13?
13 years old, yeah.
And how old are you now?
What was that?
How old are you now?
I'm 27.
27. So over the course of 14 years, I've gotten this inception point of manhood, developing into this person you are now. How have you relied back on that framework, right, as a emerging adult? Like, how does that still play in your world now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a big somatic guy. So it really comes down to a feeling. It's a feeling in my chest. It's a feeling in my heart. It's a feeling of presence that I learned how to cultivate when I was 13. And that feeling is what directs me and guides me as I make decisions, as it's sort of a feeling that I follow. It's like my guide. So as long as I'm feeling the sense of presence in my chest, then I know that I'm doing something right. And it's actually a way to anchor that. And that's really the feeling that I follow with all the work that I do. And I feel incredibly blessed to be able to do what I do and to be able to continually follow this feeling of wholeness, because it just raises my vibration, raises everyone else's. And it's like, wow, are you kidding me? I feel very lucky.
Yeah. Go back to the kind of somatic vibrations conversation. Like, explain that to somebody who doesn't understand any of that.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
how do you, put that in layman's terms, or if somebody doesn't, in the healing longevity world, like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways to think about it, but this came back to my first breathwork experience. So for me, I think we all can understand the feeling of anxiety, the feeling of being in your chest, tight chest, breathing into your neck and shoulders. You feel like your shoulders are in your ears, that feeling of anxiety actually in our body. And I think we all can sort of relate to that on some level. That is this contracted state where our heart and our actual respiratory system gets compromised. We lose this connection to our heart. We lose this connection to our diaphragm, and it disconnects us from our entire nervous system, the intelligence through which we can experience life. And for me, the first time I did breathwork was when I really learned how to unlock that for myself. And it goes back to climbing. So as I said, my dad was a professional rock climber, and growing up, that was the one sport I wasn't good at. I was good at a lot of sports, man. I was team captain, star of the show. But the one sport that my dad really wanted me to be good at, I sucked at.
What was that experience like? That's a different type of father-son, parent-coach, player-coach.
It was really, really hard, because not only did I have this identity of being successful, athletic, and good with everything else I did, so that sort of mismatch was particularly challenging for me, but this was the sport that, no matter how much my dad tried to hide it, that was the one he wanted for me. And that projection of success, of sort of this specific definition for you are good enough, that projection really hit me deep. And it really came down to this experience. This one time he took me on a multi-pitch rock climb, which multi-pitch climbing is when you're going up. Instead of just going right back down like sport climbing, you go up and up and up. So you're going up and over a mountain. So when you get multiple pitches up, it's really hard to turn around. And I got stuck. I was 11 years old. Got stuck on this cliff. And I remember viscerally that feeling of anxiety in my chest, feeling like I couldn't breathe. I couldn't get a deep breath. I'm hundreds of feet in the air. I'm looking down, my amygdala is screaming at me, telling me I'm not safe. My dad is out of sight, yelling at me, telling me I have to do this move, and my hands won't work. In that moment, I dissociated from my body, and my body contracted and locked up. And it felt like I couldn't be in my body, like my body was rejecting my soul. And that feeling was probably one of the worst feelings I've ever had in my life. After that experience, I told myself I wouldn't climb again. I was like, you know what, Dad, sorry, this isn't for me. And it wasn't until I did breathwork, which this is only 2.5 years ago. I'm laying in my living room floor. My good friend Ben Joy Walker, he's a coach. He took me through this 20-minute breathwork session. I'm laying on the floor in my living room. I'm breathing hard. I do this breath out. I pull all the air up, swallow, hold my breath. And that feeling that I felt when I was on that cliff when I was 11 years old, it washed through me.
Ooh.
And the difference was, though, that when I felt that feeling in this state, there was this visceral sense that I am actually safe. I can experience this. And we have this thing, it's called the stress cycle in our body, right? The stress cycle is we experience an emotion. And if you watch a baby experiencing an emotion, it really only lasts about 90 seconds. They say emotions fully felt only last about 90 seconds in the body. But what happens for us is we resist them, we suppress them, we project them, and we don't allow ourselves to fully feel whatever it is that we're feeling. And that disrupts that stress cycle, and it imprints that sense, that emotion, that feeling in our body, and we store it as tension. So in that moment, when I did that breath hold, this feeling was an old emotion, decades, years that I had never fully felt. And it washed through me, and it was so overwhelming and so intense for a moment. And then as it released, I felt this feeling in my chest. It was like my heart chakra cracked open. And it literally felt like I was lifted above the ground, like a string was pulling my heart up into the air. And it felt like I just opened. And so that feeling is this sense of openness. It's the feeling that you can take a full, deep breath. And with that breath, there's a sense of connection, confidence that comes with it.
There's a lot to unpack with that. That's intense. That's a lot. That the fact that you can look back to 11 years old, being stuck in that same place. I'm sure you can close your eyes now and still imagine you on that multi-pitch surface, right? And to then pinpoint the release of that, of the overcoming in your body and feeling safe again years later. That's a lot.
It was wild.
Thinking about trauma, right? Like that to me, it sounds like trauma. You had a traumatic experience. Then you then were able to utilize breathwork as a time to unpack that. Trauma can be a lot. That's a scary thing, avoidable. People want to stay as far away from acknowledging their own trauma before they even really have trauma, right? So
yeah,
how do you, to the person listening that maybe has trauma, maybe interested in breathwork, maybe feel like they're trying to find somewhere safe to navigate, and how do you recommend, how do you encourage, how do you support people with such a vulnerable positioning?
So it starts with ourselves. We have to be willing to go there within ourselves. We have to be willing to face our own shadow. Because the thing about working with trauma and the vulnerability that comes with it is we're facing parts of ourselves and aspects of our experience that consciously our mind does not feel safe around. Our body has developed a strategy to compartmentalize and sort of avoid these sensations, these emotions, these thoughts, these neural pathways. So it requires a level of being fully in yourself and fully real so that you can show up and support somebody through that. We're walking on the edge of someone's comfort zone, and it requires a level of emotional intelligence to be able to do that as well. So I say that first, like we can't help people past the degree to which we've evolved in ourselves. So it takes that level of ownership to be able to show up to this work fully. And if you're not doing that, then odds are there is a disconnect between the experience that you're wanting to provide somebody and the experience they're actually having. So that's the most important thing. But from there, it really takes being able to see somebody without needing to fix them, without needing to change them. At the end of the day, Corin, it's like we all have an inner child. And when we're working with trauma, we're having a direct conversation with our inner child. And that is deep work. It requires that you are gentle. It requires that you're soft. This is a thing I said just the other day is like, at the end of the day, I've been doing this with thousands of people now. And at the end of the day, what so many of us need is we just need to cry and feel the stuff that we haven't felt. And we need to be held through it like a fucking baby.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously. Like we all have this inner child. And it's a funny thing to talk about because it's like, we're adults now, but yet we have this part of ourselves that needs to feel safe, that needs to feel held so that we can go through the stuff that our mind does not feel safe going through.
Yeah. So I love that. I was thinking about just the current societal climate of like generational change and like the generations above us and like how tough that generation was and how tough they had to be to work, and kind of like our current generation and the generation below us, how it's just changing so rapidly. And I love that we have the fact we can look up at that generation and see the toughness. We can look down and see the quote unquote softness. And there's a split in our generation of like tough, overworked, or soft to emotional, right? And I think, as an African American football player, tough. That's all I know is how to be tough, right? But acknowledging that softer side within me, that inner child. And I grew up in a very loving home, but there's still like that, traumatic experience of being Black in America, right? And that toughness of playing football for so long. How do you help the upper generation not be so tough, but the generation below us understand the toughness that it takes to really see yourself, right? Like, we can't be tough all the time. We can't be soft all the time. Like, what's that blend look like for you to help cultivate a society that's encompassing of both sides?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is at the core of what needs to be happening right now in our culture, and we have the privilege to be supporting is this redefinition of what it means to be tough. And really, like, what are we really saying there? It's the redefinition of what it means to be purposeful and to be able to actually do what it is that we want to do in life, right? I mean, what is being tough at the end of the day? It just means being able to endure through resistance, through suffering. And so what we're talking about here is this idea of there's this hypermasculinity complex that we're all so familiar with. And then the pushback to that recently has been this push towards hypo-masculinity. And both sides of that coin are not where we want to be.
Explain that a little bit.
Well, it's either you're too soft, hypo-masculine, you don't have the real juice of what it means to be a man. And not just to be a man, but you don't have the juice of what it means to be able to move through resistance, discomfort, suffering. Suffering's inevitable, right? Change is inevitable, but growth is optional. And so that's the hypo-masculine paradigm. And then the hyper-masculine paradigm is what we've seen for a long time, which is people not willing to embrace that softness within. And then they do everything they possibly can to avoid it and resist it. And we've seen how that goes, right? Right. So the real balance, the real harmony to strike here is it requires self-acceptance, not just with the parts of ourselves that are tough, but the parts of ourselves that have feelings, the parts of ourselves that have pain, that have suffering. We don't want to talk about suffering. We don't want to talk about the parts that feel wounded or hurt, but yet we all have it as part of the human condition. And so instead of avoiding it, we actually get to face it. And that is the difference between being embodied, being really strong and in your power, and just sort of using half of your capacity.
Yeah. Where does curiosity play into this for you?
So curiosity is inevitable. It's an integral part of the exploration required to be able to heal the patterns that we've developed through the challenges we faced. So we all have compensatory patterns that we develop, whether it was, hey, I wasn't good at climbing growing up and my dad didn't accept me for that. So I had this story of I'm not good enough with me. And so what did I do? I did everything I could to get all the attention from all the girls, to do good in all the sports, to get the best grades, to be able to cover up that feeling so I'd never have to look at that or face that again. So we all have our own version of these ways in which we have adapted to not feel the feelings that really compromised us when we were younger. And curiosity is the exploration of those stories without needing to get anywhere, right? I want to heal. I want to do better. But in order to do that, I need to let myself be in what I'm going through. I can't just get there. I can't get from 0 to 100. I got to go through the process. And curiosity is a big part of that.
Yeah, curious has been my go-to word in my life. It helps me explore the unknown, and when I stay curious, I don't stay the top. I'm not the smartest person on the table, right? I'm curious about breathwork, longevity, all these things. It has allowed me to build strong relationships to people because I get to really see them and experience their viewpoint from a very high level, rather than me trying to interject my viewpoint of their life or situation. I get to learn. For me, I learn through people and their stories and what they have to say. Hence why we have a podcast. But you have these amazing opportunities to be curious. When you hear the word longevity, I thought it's a big word in health and wellness right now. As we start to, especially post-COVID, social isolation, exercise, movement, nutrition, peptides, every kind of thing that's being thrown to the marketplace when it comes to health and wellness. How does the idea of longevity as a theory solution play into it? And what are some good products of longevity that you like to see being more highlighted in health and wellness?
Yeah, I love that question. So, of course, when we talk about longevity, we're talking about not just how long you're living, but your health span, how long of those years that you're alive that you're actually vital for. And that's a very big difference because we have to really define longevity in the context of the whole human. So, we've heard of the blue zones, right? These different pockets in the world where people live the longest. Ironically, their health span is also the longest too. So it's not just about the numbers, not just about the metric. It's about understanding, well, what really goes into being vital for as long as possible. And, there's a few different things they've extracted as common denominators out of these blue zones. But the thing that I think gets overlooked a lot is breathing. So, when we're talking about longevity, we can't not talk about breathing. The reason why is because if we were to actually boil it down to how can we predict how long you're going to live, right? We're talking about respiratory rate. It's the best way we can predict your lifespan. Number one predictor of lifespan, how fast or slow you breathe. Now, if we're talking about health span, that's when we talk about VO2 max. How do we predict your health span? What's the best predictor of it? It's how much air you can pack in your lungs. So you can't talk about longevity without talking about breathing. But you can't talk about breathing without talking about these other aspects of our experience, our biochemistry, our mechanics and how we move, our psycho-emotional state. These are all reflected in how we breathe. Somebody that would be great to have on the podcast for you is Andy Sabatier. He is the founder of Academy West Breathing Performance. And he has this famous quote. He says, "We breathe how we feel how we breathe." And that sums it up very well. So when we're talking about breathing and improving breathing in the context of longevity, yeah, we need to increase your capacity to pack air into your lungs. We need to increase the efficiency for you to be able to actually move that oxygen from your lungs through your blood and get into your tissues. All of that is very important. We need you to be able to regulate your nervous system and slow your breathing down. But we also need to be addressing the emotional state that is reflected in the way that you breathe. Every emotion has a breathing pattern associated with it. And so if you can change your breathing pattern, you can change your emotional state. And if you compound that over time, you can change your relationship with your life through that emotional state.
That's so real. You know, I have 3 kids, 2 5-year-olds and a 3-year-old, and so we get all the emotions. So we see live time, uh, immature breathing patterns, or it's undeveloped, or just like a 5-year-old, 3-year-old will breathe and they're reacting a certain way. And it's crazy. Like I played football, so I have my leadership breathing is like 2-minute drill, right? You're tired in the game, got to win. Like, how are you breathing, right? And just inhale through the nose, slow out through the mouth. And for me, that was working in the most stressful times of my life. And as a uneducated or undeveloped breathing coach, right? Like, just from my experience, I taught my kids that same thing. Just calm down your breathing, settle down. And it's amazing what just bringing awareness. Like, it's probably not the best technique, most efficient, but just having that awareness to your breath and what it can do for your mind and just the noise around you and the chaos. And we just simply acknowledge how you're breathing and how it's making you feel inside. It is pretty powerful. So I'd love to hear that this is what you do, right, for your work. When you formed your business, what was kind of going into that process of like deciding this is what I want to do every day of my life?
Yeah, so it all started with that moment of that heart opening on my living room floor, feeling like I was lifted off the ground. I was like, this is a feeling that I want everybody to feel. This is a feeling that if the people who need it the most can feel it, the world could be a very different place. And that definitely was the guiding motivation to start teaching breathwork. Now, I mentioned that I had a lot of injuries growing up. So I had a lot of body issues. I had some chronic pain in my back. I had some chronic immobility in my pelvis. Had a really bad right ankle break and dislocation that inhibited my ability to actually use my whole anterior chain on my right side. And so I learned how to use my breath to actually heal and realign my body. And this is another component, right? The biochemical aspect of biomechanical aspect of breathing. We can actually, breathing, if you think about movement, what is the most foundational, fundamental movement that your body does? It's breathe. Every time you're breathing, there's a whole chain of movements that are happening in your body. And so if that's not happening, at the baseline, we're creating this compensation pattern, and the body layers that into these compression strategies that are all just to try to help us do what we need to do based off of our lifestyle, but it might not be very functional. And so I started to dive into, because I have a background in massage therapy and personal training. So I've been putting my hands on people for 5 years. I've been helping them overcome pain, feel better and more aligned in their body. And so when I started to learn about breathing and how we can utilize breathing to essentially realign the body and decompress the rib cage, the spine, the pelvis from the inside out, started seeing some incredible results. And that was a light bulb moment for me. I was like, oh my gosh,
This is it.
if I can just get people to focus on their breathing, not only are we going to relax their nervous system, not only are we going to allow them to have more capacity emotionally, but we're also going to be able to help them mechanically heal and realign their bodies. And so, you remember you came in and I'm moving your leg around. It's your hip's a little tight. I place a little pressure on it, and then I say, take a few deep breaths and exhale, get your rib cage down. Next thing you know, we unlocked your hip.
Yeah,
right?
that's wild.
Pretty wild stuff. So this is the power of breathing. It's people think about it as like, breath is medicine. Okay, sure, I love that. But really, your breath is a pharmacy with a lot of different medicines. You can breathe in a lot of different ways. And the way in which you breathe will impact your physiology, your biochemistry, your biomechanics, and your actual psycho-emotional state in a different way. You can breathe so many different ways and create so many different impacts on your body and your mind. So that's amazing.
That's impressive. Yeah. My man did unlock my hip. Just my breath. I was going to choke myself, but I'll tell that brand new. You do a lot in the community. I see dance parties, breathwork sessions. You also the Smith Rock. Now, y'all all over the place. Talk to me about the importance of building community, both within breathwork and just human connectedness overall. Like, why is this so important for you?
Yeah, so it goes right back to the longevity conversation. Look at those blue zones. One of the core themes is connection, and not just connection, but purpose, and not just purpose, but purpose within the context of community. So we evolved for so long in small groups, in tribes, where we had to play a vital role in this community. The community needed us. We were needed, right? We were needed. We had a role to play. And, with our increasing modern world of social media and digital work, working from home, working at a computer, not actually getting this face-to-face in the flesh interaction, this is what we need to heal. This is what's going to heal chronic disease. This is what's going to allow us to overcome this mental health epidemic that we're in. It's connection. And it starts with ourselves, right? I help people heal their nervous system. And we talk about safety as sort of this primary mechanism to allow the body to get into that parasympathetic state to heal. But what a lot of people don't understand is that in order to feel safe, we need to feel connected. That's the language of the nervous system. Safety, it's an idea in our mind. It's connection that is an actual felt sense. So that connection starts with ourselves, and of course, doing breath work and doing movement and doing things that get us into our body is the beginning. It's the baseline. But then we need to be able to extrapolate that sense of connection within the context of our community, within the context of our tribe on an evolutionary level. And so, I feel that one of the core healing properties of the work that I do is that connection, and getting people together and getting people into their hearts, into their bodies together allows and it facilitates this thing that we can't even necessarily describe, but it's a sense of connection that goes beyond just ourselves. It's a feeling that we're a part of something bigger, and that is what relieves that anxiety that all of us carry.
Yeah, as far as just coming from gym owner and building my community up, what I do is I feel a lot of those same things. I think just the power of being together is something that we overlook and have overlooked. I think COVID really disrupted that. And I think about pre-COVID, post-COVID, like a lot of us do. And it's like, dang, it's really a challenge to get people together in a healthy way to really feel the feelings, right, that come from connection and being together and just sharing stories and sharing meals and sharing movement. I think that's something that I personally try to do more intentionally as a way just to recognize the need, especially since we're in our community and whatever you believe politically. I think it's telling everybody that we need each other and just the people around you, your neighbor, and things that we got very disconnected from. Where do you see kind of yourself, your business, your community development in the next couple of years?
Yeah, so my goal is to really build an ecosystem of health and wellness for multiple communities, including Bend, Oregon, but beyond. I'm about to step into the functional medicine space in a whole new way, being able to run functional labs for clients and really get an idea of why their body's doing what it's doing. My goal individually as a practitioner is to be the last person somebody has to see. That's my ultimate goal. And it takes an integrated approach. It takes a deep appreciation for the nervous system and how that is really at the top of the pillar of how the body does what it does and what sort of inhibits the body from actually healing. But beyond that, all the other systems of the body, hormones, immune system, digestion, detoxification, energy production, oxidation, and beyond that. I mean, we need to be able to address people's whole health in an integrated fashion. And that's this next evolution of the holistic healthcare practitioner. It's not treating a symptom. It's not treating a lab. It's not medicating and just dealing with the side effects. It's realizing that we're whole humans and we have an integrated system of mind and body. And it's one cohesive unit that is intercorrelated and responding in such a complex, intelligent way. And learning how to map that out is what I'm so hyped on and fascinated by right now, is learning how to actually see, okay, we can connect all the dots within every system of your body. And we can clearly understand why your body is expressing the symptoms or just the state that it's expressing. And here's how we can systematically, in a custom way, backtrack that and get you into a healing state. So that's a big aspiration I have over the next few months. I'm going to be rolling out my holistic health coaching program that's going to involve functional lab screens. But beyond that, I want to create a community of breathwork facilitators who are using this holistic breathwork method that I've developed beyond breathwork, which is addressing biomechanics, biochemistry, and psycho-emotional health within the context of breathing, and how to leverage breathing to really increase the results of performance, of longevity, and just general well-being and connection.
That's awesome. It's crazy how deep this can go. Like
Yeah,
getting to really the root and base of it. Like it takes a lot of extremely hard work and a lot of deep work to get those answers.
totally.
What thinking about, you said you want to be the last person people see.
Mm-hmm.
Think about our traditional medicine and how that works. What are some options that can get to before you, like think about gym, naturopath, all those kind of options, nutrition. What's your ideal like health and wellness stack, I would say?
Yeah. Oh man, what a juicy question, right? This is the ever-changing world that we're in. I mean, there's so many things. There's so much noise, and I always land in this place of the foundations. And I'm a broken record here, but bro, breathing 25,000 times a day, every single day for the rest of your life. The only thing you'll do more in your life. There's nothing you'll do more in your life than breathe, right? So it's a lot of reps, right? And if we're not breathing functionally, which you would be surprised at the amount of people that are not breathing functionally. The amount of dysfunctional breathing I see in corporate executives, in athletes, in your everyday person, it's insane. It's a hidden epidemic. And so it starts with breathing. It has to. But from there, it starts with moving too, eating, sleeping, connecting. I think those are the pillars, right? Like making sure your home and your office and your day-to-day lifestyle is not filled with all these chemicals and toxins that very much disrupt our hormones and endocrine system and our detox and digestion. Like it really involves a certain level of intention with the basics before even thinking about the fancy gadgets or the really high level protocols. Like if we're not doing the basics, we're not ready to even have a conversation about anything else.
Do you educate people on the basics?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the framework of basics are like, you said all that stuff. Like, I feel like I've filtered that stuff over the years and like help get a good baseline. But I mean, you never know, right? Like you know what you know, but I don't feel like, being a professional athlete and college athlete and, high school athlete, like my protocols were to perform better at my highest level. So my byproduct was really focused on those side of things that you're describing, right? And I feel like general society is kind of like 10 years behind in my experience, right? All the contrast therapy, the endocrine disruption, all that kind of stuff, like that's new technology or new information that people are just now catching on to. I think the advancement of digital age and social media and internet over the last 15 years, 20 years now, but all that's helped bring it to light.
Yeah.
Do you help people audit their lifestyle?
Or for sure.
Yeah. How deep do you get? Because you do the breath work and longevity and recovery, but do you walk through somebody's day with them and help point them out? Like, is it that detailed?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because here's the thing that when you realize this, it changes everything. Healing is not a thing you do. It's a way you live.
Sheesh.
So when we're talking about healing and getting somebody to reverse cancer, getting somebody to get out of a medication protocol that they've been in for, say, 10 years, we have to not just compartmentalize these aspects of their health, right? It's not as simple as checking a box. It's not as simple as changing a habit. It starts with the mind. It starts with a shift in the way that we're living our lives. And so if healing is not a thing you do, it's a way you live, then we have to change the way that you're living your life. And yeah, that might involve changing a lot of things that you're doing, but it always starts with this level of intention. Because, I mean, when we're doing this audit, this lifestyle audit, if I'm just telling them, oh, no, you can't do A through Z, and you need to actually replace A through Z with all these new things, that's incredibly overwhelming, right? But if we're having a conversation where it's like, no, let's talk about how you're living your life. Like, what's important to you? What do you want to prioritize? What's valuable to you? What's a good place to put your energy and your attention? Talk about time. That's one of the biggest forms of anxiety that any busy, ambitious person has. Well, what if time wasn't something that you find and just set aside? What if it was something that you create, right? What is worth creating? What do you want to recreate? So that's the beginning, because if we don't have the spaciousness within your being to actually make the changes that need to happen, if you make those changes without that spaciousness, you know what's going to happen? It's just going to add a bunch of stress. And then your nervous system goes deeper and deeper into that sympathetic overdrive. And then this is the person that is doing all the things, but still feels like shit.
Yeah.
Right? So we have to change that baseline level, the capacity, before we do anything else.
Yeah. How do people stop, pause, reflect, reset in this busy society?
So, I mean, of course, breathing practices, and not just a technique, it's a way of breathing. So the thing that I do with everybody is I get them connected with their diaphragm, and I get them to actually feel the mechanics of their rib cage as they inhale and exhale. And this is a somatic anchoring technique that allows them to come back into the moment, no matter what's going on. And they'll use that in the middle of their workday. They'll use that in the morning. They'll use that before they go to bed. So use it at any point. And it's not like an isolated technique. It's a way of being in their body that intrinsically brings them back to the moment. So, and the real reason why this works is it goes back to all the way back to the Mayans. Actually, they had a word that they used for purpose, ikul, and that same word was the word for breath. So to breathe is to connect with purpose.
That's good.
Interesting, right? And then the Greek word, just to add a cherry on top of that, Greek word for breath is spiritus. Spirit. So, when we think about presence and we think about sort of the actual felt sense of presence, you can't do that without breathing.
That's good. Why do we stop breathing? Why? You got me thinking now, like, how have we gotten so far away from something so natural, from something so, like, ancient, right?
Yeah.
Something so basic.
Yeah.
Like, how do we combat this in a way that's, like, understood, right? Like, I remember, so this January was my first time doing breathwork.
Yeah.
I heard about it for months, and I kind of resisted it a lot of it, because I was like, man, I know how to breathe.
Sure.
I breathe all the time.
Totally.
I'm an athlete, washed up now, but I still move my body at a pretty high level.
Definitely.
That tension of not wanting to do something that I feel like is so basic. How do we overcome that generally as a society?
Yeah.
To make, whether it's breathing, whether it's exercise, whether it's nutrition, whether it's looking at our healthy lifestyle to analyze it, how do we get over that fear and that tension and that, like, friction?
Yeah, it's such a good question, right? And in the context of breathing, I mean, you are an expert on breathing. Everyone is. As we said, you've gotten well over 10,000 hours breathing, right? Everyone is doing it more than anything else. And so it's a very personal thing, right? And it's a reflection. It's a window into our physiology, our emotional state, our psychology. So I think it really takes an appreciation for recognizing how vulnerable it is to be working on and talking about our breathing. It's this autonomic thing that we don't even think about, and yet when we do think about it, some magical things happen. So being able to just recognize and have a little bit of courage around the vulnerability that it takes to create change in ourselves and our lives is definitely a good baseline. And I think it takes some inspiration, literally breathing inspiration, but also in the sense of motivation, in the sense of like having a vision. And once again, that comes back to me and how I am. The more that I can show up with this energy that's infectious, that people want, the more motivated and open they're going to be to explore what it is I have to say, and then I'll be able to guide them, right? So I think for me, like, it really comes back to me and being able to be a leader in a way that drives people's curiosity and motivates them to want to explore the edge of their comfort zone because I'm doing it in every given moment. And on top of that, I mean, you have to ask yourself the question of, what do I really want? And do I want to wait until a crisis happens before I make the changes that deep down inside I know I need to make? We all have this idea of who we know we can be, the potential that we have. And I think a lot of the anxiety that people face is just knowing deep down that they're not living up to that. And so, they mask it, or they numb it, or they run away from it. But at the end of the day, that serves a function, right? It's not about getting rid of your anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
It's about listening to it.
Learn how to work with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you be talking about you preaching. One thing that I've struggled with just like in the fitness industry, health and wellness, is like I'm always the one giving it out. I'm always doing other people. And I have a hard time that almost like self accountability due to myself. Because like who's gonna teach a teacher, right?
Yeah.
How do you stay connected to yourself, knowing that this is very important work and doing it to yourself and like making sure that you're peaking of your game? Like how do you find that accountability?
Yeah, I love that question, right? I mean, it's the thing that separates a great leader from a good leader, is that dedication, that devotion to their message, their purpose. And at the end of the day, I think it's the appreciation that I'm never going to get there. There's no end.
Mm-hmm.
So if I know I'm never going to get there, then what is the thing that actually keeps me going, that gets me up in the morning and keeps me doing what I'm doing? And at the end of the day, I think that it is knowing that what I'm doing goes beyond just the physical. It's the ripple effect of I'm connected to something greater. And the more that I am guided by that awareness, and the more that I act from that place, the more impact that's going to have, the more of a ripple effect that will create in the world. And that's changing the world. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I love that because that's a strong realization that there's really no outcome. It's just a process.
Right.
And falling in love with the process is way better than getting enamored with this false reality of the outcome.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be a new cliff to climb.
Right.
And so if you stay in this climb forever in this process of love betterment, then there's a lot more joy in it. At least as I feel. Like if I'm in love with the process, I'm finding joy. If I'm worried with the outcome, I'm anxious.
Right.
I'm out of control.
Yeah.
Or like I'm more chaotic. I feel like that's something that has taken me a while to learn post football and business and parenting, as a husband. Like it's a long game to play.
It's a long
There's no
game.
4 quarters.
Yep.
There's no season. It's just a long uphill battle. And not uphill in a bad way, but just a constant grind of bettering. Like I'm trying to make, today better than yesterday. So there's a certain kind of grind, right, to make my tomorrow better than today. So I think that's something that I think everyone should focus on, is like the process.
Yeah.
And how to hustle there, but also how to rest there and find that intentionality for the longevity of the marathon.
Exactly.
Like, it's a long race. What do you think about your art of hustle and your art of rest and reset? Right? What's your formula that you want to give to the world or give to the viewers? Like, what's that art that makes you different than the next breathwork, recovery, longevity? Like, why does your story matter so much?
Yeah. It comes down to a way of being. We all have a unique gift that we have to give to the world. And the degree to which I'm dedicated to sharing my gift with the world is the degree to which I'm going to be able to facilitate other people connecting with that in themselves. And so at the end of the day, I think we have to find that light in ourselves. And it takes some work. It takes peeling back the layers. But when we find that light, being guided by that, everybody has their own story to share, their own gift to give. And that's really my goal. It's not to have some cookie cutter process to get somebody feeling better. It's to really facilitate a journey of homecoming so that they can really connect back in with who they really are, and to be guided by that with what they do. I mean, I'm not interested in just getting people not sick. right? I want people to thrive. I want to see real transformations, and I want to see those transformations affect more people. That's that ripple effect. I think that's one of the most beautiful things in the world is, sitting with somebody, taking them through a process, and then watching how they shine afterwards and how that affects their kids, their family, their community. It's amazing how connected we all are.
That's real. When you think about success, how would you define that?
Yeah, that question. So to me, success is an integrated experience of fortune and knowing that your life is in order in a way that you want it, and knowing why.
Mm. The why.
Yeah, knowing why. That's the intention.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not just that things are good. It's that things are good, and I know why they're good.
Yeah. I love that. I love the why because it gives you the opportunity to design it how you want. Like you get the why adds the intentionality between why you do what you do and why you show up every day in the process, right? Like I used to think that, you ever watched the show DuckTales growing up?
No. Oh, no, yes, I did.
DuckTales,
Yeah, I remember DuckTales.
Scrooge, and he had a pile of coins.
Yeah.
And, they were hating on Scrooge, Uncle Scrooge, but he had a pile of coins. And I feel like the American dream, quote unquote, has been chase this pile of coins and work all your life to stack up all the coins. And as you're saying that, just finding a coin in every day and finding the coin in people is for me, a success. Because I'm happy, they realize their gift, and when those 2 coins come together, it makes a rainbow, right? It's that joy gets amplified.
Yeah.
And I really sensed that in this last year, in 2025 in Central Oregon, meeting you, connecting with people, there's a lot of great people out here doing great things.
For sure.
For the benefit of the human experience.
Yeah.
And that's been so refreshing, to see people working hard to help the humans around them become better. Period. Right? They just want their people to be connected, they want their community aligned, and they want their self-gift to be out on display to change the world. And I feel that's a very special thing that's been brewing in Central Oregon.
Yeah, no,
I know you sense it to feel it.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're in a really awesome community here. I think people spend their whole lives looking for this type of a community of independent thinkers, incredible creators, and being in this ecosystem where we're able to play our unique part and really contribute to the whole and know that we're not alone. It's not an isolated thing we're doing. We're a part of this ecosystem.
Yeah, together.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, man, appreciate you. Also got a nice little gift here from Brighton. Do you want to explain to us what you brought me today?
Yeah, so this is a company called Intake Breathing. I'm partnering with them, and they're nasal strips, but they're not just your average nasal strip. They actually use a magnetic mechanism to mechanically open your nasal airway. So this is great for people who have a difficult time maintaining nasal breathing and exercise, or who have a difficult time sleeping and just have generally a difficult time breathing through their nose. This makes it much, much easier to perform nasal breathing, whether you're consciously breathing or not, and to actually be able to easily shift your breathing patterns towards nasal breathing so that eventually you don't even need to wear the thing and you've changed your breathing pattern.
Love it, man. Thanks for the gift. I appreciate it. I'm trained for half marathon, so I'm definitely going to put this to use.
Yeah, man. The nasal breathing and running, it's a game changer.
Yeah, I'm going to need all that coaching because, there's a whole lot of man about to move for 13 miles. Well, yeah,
that's exciting, man. That's really exciting.
Well, Brandon, thanks for the time, man. Hope you have a great holiday season.
Yeah, you as well. Thanks for having me.
And we'll definitely do this again just to help bring the awareness and understanding to the importance of breathing and longevity and recovery. And keep doing what you're doing, man. You're doing great things in the community. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Thanks for being a part of it.
All right, man. Art of Hustle. We out. Peace.
Peace.